Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. On behalf of the NCST staff and Board of Managers, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our 2024 Homeownership Policy Symposium. I'm Christopher Tyson, President of NCST, and I'm happy to have you here joining us at the Urban Institute live and also joining us online. Thank you. As we all know, the nation's housing crisis continues to command not only the attention of policymakers, but increasingly the general public and popular culture. In addition to rising prices and interest rates, we face a crippling lack of supply in many markets. By some estimates, we are 4 million units short of meeting the current demand. At NCST, we join housers across the broad spectrum of housing concern as we call upon federal policymakers and policymakers in state houses across the country to devote an increasing amount of concern and interest and resources to address this issue. But as you well know, NCST is specifically concerned with increasing the accessibility and affordability of homeownership. For the past 16 years, we have worked across the country to expand the supply of affordable homeownership in ways that stabilize neighborhoods, grow community wealth, and shrink the racial wealth gap. We're proud to have worked with holders of distressed and defaulted mortgage property to connect them with community-based nonprofits and other developers who go on to create new affordable homeownership opportunities. We've worked with policymakers in DC to advocate for homeownership policy innovation and reform. And we're also very proud of the work we've done with local practitioners on the ground to deliver technical assistance and resources as we try to increase the supply of affordable housing and single-family units for homeownership. This is our work that we've been committed to since 2008, the last housing crisis. And in the midst of this new housing crisis, we are committed to working with our partners and others to increase opportunities for homeownership. Today, we've convened a very talented and just incredible cadre of experts who are going to talk to you and deliver information about some of the most cutting-edge issues impacting affordable homeownership today. You'll hear about manufactured housing and the many options we have, the technologies that are booming to increase the supply of affordable units in unconventional ways. You'll learn about the impact of heirs property and tangled title on our housing supply and the ability of communities, particularly Black and Latino communities, to build sustainable and durable community wealth. And of course, we are gathered here today 2 weeks after our recent federal election. I'm sure many of us are wondering what lies ahead for housing and home ownership in particular. Well, we are happy to convene one of the first panels, we believe, to talk about these issues with experts who will look into their crystal ball and tell us what we should expect ahead as we think about homeownership policy in the next 4 years. We are very excited to have you. I want to recognize a few individuals and groups who have joined us here and who have made today possible. First, I want to acknowledge our Homeownership Alliance members. As you know, NCST leads the Homeownership Alliance, our practitioner-led collaborative of CDFIs and nonprofits working in over 16 states. We now have 20 members of the Homeownership Alliance to advocate for federal policy reform around homeownership. These are the boots on the ground, the experts who are committed to homeownership and understand the differences that we have in various local markets across the country. We're proud of the Homeownership Alliance and want to acknowledge our Homeownership Alliance members who are sharing with us this morning. If you are a member of the Homeownership Alliance, your organization, please stand. And for those of you joining us and watching online, if you are interested in the Homeownership Alliance, you will hear more information about it, but you can certainly contact our colleague, Elizabeth Coates, and she can be reached at ecoates@ncst.org. I also want to acknowledge the incredible staff at NCST who has been working the entire year to bring this event together. And my colleagues at NCST and our board members are just so excited to have this day finally come, and I want to acknowledge them and ask them to stand briefly. If you're here in the room, you can see our NCST staff. We also have some NCST alums in the house, and I know more are joining us today. I see Chris Siglin, and I know we have some others who will be with us both on stage and in the crowd, so we're so excited to bring the NCST family together. This event is made possible by the generosity of our partners, and we want to acknowledge the Mortgage Bankers Association. I think Wendy is here on their behalf. Freddie Mac. And the Wells Fargo Foundation. We rely on our partners to put on activities like this, bring people together, and we rely on partners to do all of our work. And indeed, we have our Symposium sponsors here, but we also have other sponsors with us. JP Morgan Chase is here, and you'll be hearing from Olivia Barrow-Strauss, our partner, who will be a moderator today and speaking with us about the great work that we're doing on heirs property. But without any further ado, I'd like to call up again our partner in doing this great work, the Wells Fargo Foundation, whose generosity and leadership has allowed this event to come together. They are our title sponsor today, and I would like to call the head of Housing Access and Affordability for Wells Fargo, Stacy Spann, to the stage.
I'm not going anywhere, right? I asked him if he was going somewhere. I don't have a check for him, though.
Okay. I'll be right here.
All right. I can't just magically make it appear. So, good morning. I'm Stacy Spann, head of Housing Access and Affordability, Philanthropy at Wells Fargo Foundation, and that's the least important thing you'll hear today. I think it's worth noting that Chris and team have done a spectacular job over the last few years, and I'll point out some of the innovations, but it really is, I want to acknowledge the staff and the team at NCST, all the work that you're doing, as well as the partners who are here to make that work come to fruition. So if we could just, really give a hearty round of applause for all of you. And I truly mean that. That includes competitor banks as well. So as we know, this housing challenge is not going anywhere. It's persistent, right? And it doesn't matter the size of the town, the village, the state, the region. It's pervasive. Doesn't matter what family you're from. Doesn't matter how under-resourced you are, or frankly, how well-resourced you are. This is hitting home for everyone, literally home. And so at the Wells Fargo Foundation, we are working as fervently as we can with partners like NCST to try to stem the tide of this. It is indeed a crisis. And it's an overused word in our field, but fortunately, I think most of us here were able to wake up somewhere that we liked. Yes? Right? This is actually the audience participation portion of the program. And in our nation's capital, as you traveled here from wherever you're traveling, you had to be struck by the number of persons who were without homes, right? The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is a neighbor in this particular plaza. And yet, all around it, we see folks who are unhoused. This is serious. And while we know that homelessness itself is not simply a housing problem, at its core is housing. We know that we've got deep economic challenges no matter the state. At the core of that is housing. We know that small businesses can't keep employees. At the core are housing challenges. Name an issue in these United States, and at its very center is a housing challenge. And that's, in fact, our challenge. That's our task. So my heart is heavy. And it doesn't matter who the president is. It's been heavy for the last 15 years. We are struggling to find solutions for this. And so no matter what tool, we still need more. No matter how great the human capital, we still need more. So I invite every single person who's listening, watching, half paying attention, please pitch in. All right, join NCST, join NCST's partners, and saddle up. This is the fight of our lives. And what's more, it's the fight of the next vanguard of leaders, of academicians, of business persons. This is the fight for freedom, for real liberation. And so I want to point out that to this point, Wells Fargo has invested $1.5 million to support NCST's launch of the Acquisition Bridge Fund, which started in Detroit. That's not a city of focus for Wells Fargo. We don't have branches there. And yet we're still there. Right? It indicates how tough this challenge is. And so I want to point out that we would like to see that fund replicated in markets across the United States. And as I pointed out earlier, every single one of these markets has the same challenge, housing. And so we're hopeful that NCST and team are able to actually impact the supply of homes that are affordable to working families. And those families, we know, make up the fabric of communities. So it's with deep gratitude for our continued partnership with NCST and advancing solutions and even discussions around how we house families better and set them up for success, but house them well, often. We need to use every single tool in the toolkit and develop new ones. Today's theme is the next 4 years for obvious reasons. But it kind of doesn't matter. We're really talking about the next 400 years. This is the work for the next 400 years. And so we can't stop. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in rooms like this, at volunteer events, wherever iron is sharpening iron around this particular problem. Although priorities are shifting, what we measure might change. People are the center of our work. And so that's lost on a lot of folks. I know it's not lost on this room, but I'm hopeful that you all will be reinvigorated by some of what you hear today, and we take that message and we work harder. We focus more. Every single nickel that we are investing philanthropically, the multiplier of it has to be people. Right? And so we're humbly inviting you all as we do this work, as we pursue it, to help us measure it better, to help us have greater impact, and to help us change community. And so with that, thank you so much. Enjoy today, and we're really looking forward to partnering with you.
Before we bring up our manufactured housing panel, I was remiss. I see one of NCST's board members here in the audience, Paul Singh with NeighborWorks. Just wanted to recognize Paul and our very committed board of managers who have supported all of the work that we're doing, and we really appreciate your presence here today, Paul. And we know some others will be joining as well, so thank you.